This is Annie Kid Wolf, and you're watching This is Punk Rock for Punk Globe Magazine.
1, 2, 3, 4. Punk rock, punk rock, punk rock. 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 It ain't brain surgery. Punk rock, punk rock, punk rock. 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 It ain't brain surgery. One, two, three, four.
Okay, here we are with Chris Walter. Right on, my friend. Good to see you. Haven't seen you for so long.
The handshake I always mess up.
I know. I've totally made it. Was making it up as I go along. So we want to talk to you about punk. And we want to talk to you about how punk changed your life and when you first heard it, because you're an amazing writer and you have how many books?
35, 36.
That's incredible. Yeah, I've read a few of them and they're really great. I think I have 11 of his books, so that's pretty good. Yeah, so I want to talk to you about punk. I want to talk to you about how punk changed your life, because we're doing this for Punk Globe and we want to keep on that train. I want to find out what you're doing right now. I know you have a couple of new books that just came out. We want to talk about that. And tell me about punk. Tell me about how it changed your life when you first heard it, your whole entire existence around punk.
Well, I'll try not to go on too long, but
That's okay.
But it started off, the 70s were just really boring as far as music goes. The only person around was like Iggy, and the New York Dolls, and it kind of started there for me, really.
Yeah.
And then one day I was out with my little brother and we saw a sign that said 5 bands for $3 at the University of Manitoba. So we went, and the bands were just terrible, the sound was really terrible. They couldn't really play, but there was just something about it, it's just like, wow, anybody can go up there and do this, really.
Was it the energy? Was it the people in the room? Was it the movement? Like, what did you feel? Like, how did you feel when you first experienced this?
Wow, it's hard to say. I just felt there was some, I'm not even really sure what it was, because the sound was so terrible, and like I said, the bands couldn't play, but it was loud and it was chaotic, and there was that energy. It was just like, wow, what the hell is this?
Yeah, you just kind of felt at home, maybe.
That came later. That came like in about July. Like I was kind of a late bloomer. Everything was late in Winnipeg, right? Because being Winnipeg, and so I think the first gig everybody met each other, like from this little scene, was like at a show with 999 and the Dickies at the NATO Club, and that's where I met like all the people who were the mainstays of the scene.
And what year was that?
1980.
1980. Okay.
And the Dickies were just like, like Chuck Wagon and Leonard and Stan and all them, and 999, they were great too.
Yeah.
And then after the show, there was this party at a punk house across the street. It was called the House of Beep, and I was like, so I just kind of followed everybody else across the street over there, and of course we partied till dawn or whatever, and it was just that was just the beginning, Then I started seeing all the great Winnipeg bands. It was like Low Life and the Pauper Mechanics. Then later came like bands like the Unwanted, the Stretch Marks, Personality Crisis, and the scene there was really great till about 84. I'd say it started to kind of fold in on itself, as it did pretty much everywhere else. The only band that really wasn't paying attention was SNFU, who just kind of started up around that time. So they were really the only punk going for a period of 3 or 4 years. And
is that when you first started a friendship with Chai?
First time I met Chai was in 1981 when I was in Edmonton with the Nostrils as a roadie. He was just this weird little guy, and I thought, this guy, he's got the incredible balls to walk around Edmonton dressed like that, because he was just a fist magnet for every construction worker and redneck in town,
totally.
figured you had to be either really fast or really tough. You know, so yeah, that's where I met him.
And I think that's a big thing about punk is that, you know, many years ago it was about being an individual. It was about being, you know, pushing things. And I felt really myself, felt really at home when I was young and in the 80s. And when I first experienced the moshing and everything when I was like 12 or 13. So I get that, you know, that energy back then was unbelievable. And I want to tie into the fact that the book that you wrote about Chai and your experience with him too. Yeah, let's just get the book.
Lots of his art and photographs and stuff. But it's about you know, my history with him, really, you know, 'cause like we met in, you know, 1981, and our paths crossed many times over the years, even though we weren't, you know, like I saw the band like a bunch of times in the beginning, but then we moved to Vancouver around the same time, you know, and then so I would see him on the bus, you know, and he'd be like, "Hey, what are you doing here?" You know, and then later, you know, after before the band broke up. Yeah, it started. I really got to know him when I did the SNFU book, not this one, but the biography. So I'd have to go to. He didn't have a phone, so I would go down to the pub 340.
What year was that?
2014, 2015, yeah.
So he was much later in his career,
Yeah,
and it was
then, yeah.
Yeah, and it was a few years before he passed, right?
Yeah, but he passed in 2020.
Yeah, so just probably like 4 years or 5 years before he passed. So.
Oh no, I guess it was earlier. Yeah, I guess I did the Diglow book first. So I guess I started doing the SNFE book probably in 2013, and so I got to really know him. I'd go down to pub 340. He didn't have a phone, so I'd have to go down to the bar and record him on my little tape recorder.
That's
awesome.
Know? That is punk.
He keeps phones. I don't have one either, really. So you know.
I know actually a lot of people who don't, which is
crazy.
Yeah,
it's
this day and age.
So hard to get by without one. You know, like,
I know.
my wife's for a lot of important SMS codes and stuff. You know.
Oh, that's
but
great.
anyway, like, you know, then we started doing like the painting thing. You know, at the pub 340, he would make paintings, and he didn't have any of the, you know, the wherewithal to advertise and sell them and ship them and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that. You know, we split everything. You know, he did the art, I did everything else, and paid him up front.
That's awesome.
And you know, so that provided him with some income for the last 4 or 5 years of his life.
Mm-hmm. So did this book just come out?
That book came out last year.
Last year. And where can you get this book? Like, where can most people get it?
Punkbooks.com.
Punkbooks.com?
Yeah.
Great. So we'll put that up on there. So you'll have that. We'll have all that together. But tell me a little bit more about what's going on with you right now.
Well, I did the last book I did. It's called Facebook Sucks. It's about social media. I just wanted to try something different, you know, to get away from my usual punk rock and drugs thing, you know, homeless people and all that. Just try something new. So I did that, and you know, I'm proud of the way it came out. You know, I didn't know what I was doing, but I muddled through it, and it came out okay. But now I want to go back to the punk rock thing, and so I'm doing a incomplete history of punk rock. It's going to start the journey, you know, when I was a kid, when I first started listening to, you know, I think Alice Cooper was kind of like the first, put me on that path. You know, Alice Cooper was punk, you know, but in a way it kind of didn't really seem that much different for, you know, Iggy Pop who came along, you know, and then
Alice Cooper was definitely OG in the punk world. I felt like that when, you know, this guy with crazy makeup doing insane things on stage. Like, definitely. I agree.
Yeah. And then, you know, Iggy, of course, is like, nobody was calling Iggy punk rock, but all the punk rock bands covered him later, right? And Iggy, of course, doesn't even like, I'm not a punk rocker, this is not punk rock. How punk is that?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, even to like disavow like this whole genre that has claimed you as their leader, you know, it's like, nah.
Yeah. That's fantastic. I know it's true, right? I think that's kind of part of, for me, what punk rock means, right? Is that, you know, that doing those things to really create and be original and to push those limits and to, you know, have that small outcast. I think outcast is the best word for being a punk. And I wanted to ask you about that. Like, what are some words that you feel as an author that punk means to you? Like, mine is outcast, but
Misfit,
you know,
of course.
Misfit for
Yeah,
sure.
you know, like just individuals, you know, creative types, you know, that seems to attract a lot of creative people.
Mentally unstable.
Yeah, drug addicts.
Drug addicts.
Yeah.
ADHD.
Yeah.
Those are ones that,
High school dropouts.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Originals for
Yeah.
sure. But okay, so tell me about this Facebook Sucks. Like, that's a new book that just came out too, right?
Yeah,
Like that
about
just
a month ago.
about a month ago. So we're gonna put that link of where you can get that book up on this interview, and I wanna ask you about that and tell me a little. Obviously, Facebook sucks, but what is your take on it?
Well, we don't have to, like, I think it really helps to bring the, you know, people together. If it wasn't for Facebook, I wouldn't be in touch with so many people. I'm basically a hermit, so if I didn't have that, you know,
Lots of
I'd be
people
so out
are.
of touch.
Lots of people. That's one of the reasons why we're doing these interviews, right?
Yeah.
Is to get into people's phones and computers and get them, you know, getting to know artists that they might not necessarily, you know, or getting to know something that about an artist that they like, right?
But I'm not saying Zuckerberg's a good person. You know, he's a detestable scumbag. But
Yes.
we don't have to like him to make, you know, to use his social platform.
Yeah.
You know,
and that's what the book's about?
Well, it's kind of like it's. I talk a lot about you know, there's tips in there, like, you know, stuff about, like, you know, dick pics and how to win Facebook arguments. You know, what else have I got in there? Facebook dating.
So some great Chris Walter humor in there.
Well, yeah, it's like satire, but it's mixed with facts too. You know, like some statistical stuff and a whole chapter about all the dirt that Zuckerberg has done and being fined for. Basically, his whole thing is he'll just do whatever he wants and then pay the fines if he gets caught. That's just his whole thing. He doesn't even care if
It's the
stuff is
whole
legal.
thing with billionaires.
Yeah,
you
just
know?
do whatever you want, and if you get caught, if you get caught, you throw your best lawyers at it, and if you have to settle eventually, then you settle.
Yeah, it's some terrifying times, right? It
for
definitely
sure.
is. So we need to.
The Orange Menace, oh my God, who can believe we're here?
I know you would never think that, you know, in a million years.
Watching the
but
election is just fuck.
I know, pretty mind blowing. And us as Canadians, we look at it from a different angle too, and just. Yeah, it's terrifying.
It's like watching the meth lab next door blow up, you know.
Yeah, that's a good description. Okay, so tell me a little bit more about your history. I want to hear. You have all these books. When did you start writing them, and when did you know that was your calling? I know that you've been in bands and you've done different things in that realm first, right?
Well, yeah, I tried that, and I think when I realized I was never going to be a guitar player, I had to do something, right? So I wanted to try. So I figured I'll try something else.
Because you're very creative. Your books are great. Like they have a fantastic perspective. So I always like a Chris Walter book. So definitely.
But school in school, which I did terribly at. English was the only thing I could half do, right? So, and then when I started doing my fanzine Pages of Rage in 1982, that was kind of my first taste of creative writing.
And was that in Winnipeg?
Yeah. And I thought, you know, and so I kind of remembered that, you know, even though the magazine folded after about a year and a half, I still remembered, you know, what it was like to, you know, do creative writing. Mm-hmm. And so, like, and then around towards 98, when I was really in my drug addiction, I just had to do something. All I did was sit around thinking of ways to get high, you know, and then getting high, and then, you know, the whole cycle. So I started writing, you know, on pencil with paper. And then I finished a couple of books, and I sent them off to publishers. And I came close a couple of times, really close. And they didn't publish them, so I'm just going to print them myself. My girlfriend works at a printing shop. We'll just make books and sell them. And then I was surprised when people actually started buying them. I was like, whoa, this is cool, you know. And you know, after about 4 years, I had enough books, and had them all. I could send them all over the country because it was cheap to print and shipping was cheap.
So that is really punk. That
yes,
is
and
totally punk, right?
Yeah,
To me,
the
is
punk,
that's that do-it-yourself.
the DIY ethic. You know, it's
Yeah.
like it might have never occurred to me I could just do that if it wasn't for punk. So you know, and
So that's how punk changed your life,
yeah,
basically,
yeah,
right?
yeah, for
You
sure.
know, so that you could wrap your head around, you know, doing it yourself and not having to go, oh, well, if I can't get a publisher that's got some big name, then it
I
can't
can't
be
do
done.
it. Yeah.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
punk is just like, oh, I'll just do this myself. It's like, you know, starting your own record label, right? It's the same kind of DIY thing. But punk changed my way. Like in life, you know, at first it was like I just wanted to destroy the world, you know, because I felt failed by the system. You know, I was stuck in all these dead end jobs. I was never going to amount to anything, never going to have any money, never going to have a house or, you know, any stability. So I just wanted to smash the world, you know. But then later, you know, when I kind of got around some of those obstacles and you know, my life wasn't such a ball of shit. I started to think of punk as just, you know, it's kind of like a blueprint for being able to do things your own way, you know, like kind of living outside the society's rules, you know, and just doing things your own way, you know, and
Yeah. I agree. I think that's what I do. I do that same thing, whether it's music or film or TV or any, you know, putting together content. I just do it, right? And I think that punk rock and the whole movement of punk rock gave me that. So I relate to you a lot in the way that you know, your perception of things. So I wanted to make sure that we got some of that, you know, in the interview.
But my rage towards the whole world now, it's directed more to, like, you know, the 1% and you know, certain things, right, rather than everyone, you know. Like I don't want to destroy everyone anymore. You know, there's a lot of things that are worth saving in this world, and so I don't. So I've just grown up basically, you know, and I found out that you know, that I have more in common with hippies than I thought.
Yeah,
you know,
and
so,
also you're a dad.
yeah.
You know, so being a dad, you know, that kind of changes because you're looking at the world in a different, you know, through a different lens, right?
Yeah, that was having, you know, my second son was really, that changed my life too, because I had to get clean, or I couldn't be a dad. I couldn't have a relationship, you know, with my partner, and so I got clean,
And so
that
you
was 25 years
don't drink
ago, yeah.
either anymore,
No,
right?
I drank again for about 7 years. I did a little experiment with the booze. I thought, okay, it'll be I can drink now, you know. Yeah, you know, it started off all right. You know, I was really
usually
careful with
always
it.
does.
Yeah. Then slowly it just went right off the cliff.
Well,
One day I woke up and I went, oh, fuck, what am I doing? All these empty bourbon bottles all over the place. And I just, oh man, I got to stop this.
Well, you know, it's like you've really changed things for who you are. Like you could have gone down a completely different path, but you know, now that having 35 books is pretty mind-blowing, and I think that that's a fantastic, like, follow-through thing. Like, get the book done, get it published, get it out there, whatever you're doing, you're following through, and I love that, you know. I love that about you and about how you look at the world, and I think that's great.
Everybody has to have something to do, I think, you know, and if I, you know, someday there's going to be an unfinished book, because I'm never going to stop. You know, will never be a day when I'm going to retire. I'm never going to.
That's inspiring, though, to a lot of people out there that maybe only get halfway through writing something, or they think it's not good enough, or they're down on themselves. It's like, it's inspiring that you're just, you know, you just keep doing it and keep moving forward.
To see it through, you know, every project. Well, sometimes if I get to 20,000 words, and I don't like the way it's going, then it goes on the pile. I have a few of those, you know.
But you keep going. But you get back on the train, you know.
Well, not for every book. If I don't, like I said, if I have 20,000 words.
Just in general.
Yeah. Then
you know,
if that one.
You don't just
work,
quit and be like, oh fuck, man, my life is over.
Well, then I start another book, you know. But there was one point, like when I was thinking, I'd been writing a couple of books. Maybe I'm not a good enough writer because I'm too well adjusted and too normal. And I was thinking, wow, what kind of madman would think that? You know?
Awesome.
So if I'm not a good writer, it's not because of that, you know.
Yeah.
Because just ask my wife what I'm like.
That's awesome. So is there anything that you want to add to the interview or anything you want to say?
Well, my new book,
Yeah.
it's about my personal journey, through punk rock, starting, back in.
And when does that come out? Let me just stop you for a second.
It'll be, and I want it to come out before Christmas. I'm really pushing
so this
hard
year,
on it.
2025.
Yeah, Christmas. I'm really writing really quickly because, I'm inspired, and there's just so much. There's so many bands I love. It's not going to be just like everybody always covers like the first 3 years, or whatever. So I'm going to have to squeeze a lot of stuff into this book, and I'm going to have to go lighter on some bands I know that'll like, but I've already put a lot of work into bands that I felt that had to put a lot of work into, like, the Ramones and the Sex Pistols. And, trying to find stuff that everybody doesn't know about them. And I did, I found
Do you have
stuff
a title name for it? Do you have a title?
An incomplete history of punk rock. But there will be some prefix to it too, so that's just half the name, right? But there's it'll start with that, like in '74, and it'll come right up to present day. I want to talk about. There'll be a blank spot in the middle where, where all my drug years were, and I was really out of touch for a while, But I want to talk about, the bands I started listening to when I got out of recovery, and then I got back in the music scene. I started writing for Nerve magazine, and they would give me all the punk CDs. They'd be like, I go in and here. So
I think you reviewed one of my CDs too. Look at this, tables have turned.
Yeah, it was on Alternative Tentacles.
Yes,
that's
right. Yeah. This will be my album. Will be my 5th album on Alternative.
Whoa, I got to catch up. I guess we both have some catching up.
Don't worry about it.
We both have some catching up to do.
I know. I got some books to read. Got some music to listen to. But that's what we do. That's another good thing about the whole punk thing, is that's what we do. We work there for each other, and we try to, uplift each other, because we are outcasts.
For sure.
Yeah, and it's
family of outcasts.
Yes, exactly. That's a good way to put it. So, finish what you're going to say, and then we'll.
I think that was it.
Okay.
I'm pushing hard on this book, and it'll be done someday, like hopefully before Christmas.
Yeah, and then you'll be able to get it. People will be able to get it at that link we're going to put on the screen, right?
Punkbooks.com.
Punkbooks.com. Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, Chris. It was really awesome to chat with you, and I want everyone to buy his books now.
Let's do the Wendy 13 fist bump.
What is that?
Don't try to shake hands with Wendy.
Oh, no. Well, we're going to be interviewing Wendy at some point, so thank you again.
Right,
That's so awesome.
Thank you, Annie.
So we're going to do a little walkthrough of your home here.
I got this shirt the first night we moved to Vancouver. I bought it from Gabby on stage. Let's see, we have the Rebel Spell. Here's a distorted version of our old building in East Vancouver. And of course, you have Iggy Pop. And Joey Ramones is at Playhouse Theatre in Winnipeg in 1983, I'm going to say.
Right beside Chai.
Yeah. And let's see, Chai Pig. And here's me and my dad. Look at when I was like 5. So he's teaching me how to read.
That's awesome.
This is the cover for one of my books, The Crooked Beat. Okay, let's go down here. Here's some of my paintings. Boy, Ken Foster, Crack Pipe Burn, Beatty, Ramones.
I love the way you put your t-shirts in frames.
Bukowski, Lemmy. Now here's first page of my first book in 1998. Here's a letter from my high school teacher kicking me out of school for good. Yeah. These are some paintings people gave me over the years.
This is such an amazing art gallery you have here.
And more tikis. That's Hoon Parkins from the Matadors. This is a poster I got. This is the poster from the last Personality Crisis show ever. Now, there's only a couple of these people still alive now, and that was only from 2017. Yeah, this is it. Shirts. My brother painted this in 1990, and then he died a couple years later. It's crooked, you can see. And this is looking out the window towards Surrey. And of course, this corner here. This is Bob Scott. He does these amazing cork art. It's all cork and paint. This is GBH 1982 in Winnipeg. That's me when I still had hair. A little bit, but you know, I cut it off, my long hair off, and when I was 19 though. Iggy, of course. One of the first records. Well, I've got this at Punk Rock Bowling. There's our fake fireplace with fake soot burns.
It's
I
amazing.
spray painted that on there for realism.
Wow, this is an incredible gallery. Thank
Oh,
you so
dude.
much for the tour.
Here's
Oh,
here
here we go.
Here's my artists. There's Irvine Welsh, Tom Wolfe, Charles Bukowski, Hunter Thompson, it's John Steinbeck. John Card gave me this shirt in 1985. Yeah.
The gallery. So
Godzilla,
wonderful.
of course.
You've surrounded yourself with this incredible art and Godzilla.
There's my Chai Pigs mugs. People send them to me.
Oh, and America right now. The burning.
These, one day I got home from the pub 340 and I had these paintings and I was trying to sell them, put them up there and nobody's buying them, so I said, fine, fucking just keeping them. I just kept the whole day's stuff. And then later I never tried to sell them again. I just kept them. I have a bunch of his stuff too, other stuff too, of course.
And here we are, back
back
at
to
the other end
Reed
of the
Fleming,
building.
of course.
Reed Fleming, of
And
course.
here's
Jim
Jen,
Cummings.
here's Jen and I in New York City in 2016.
You guys have been together for how long?
30 years.
30 years. Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, thank you for the tour.
Thanks for coming over.